Welcome to part 2 of the Dogs in Ancient Egypt series. Today I'm going to teach you how to distinguish a dog in ancient Egyptian art from any other animal. You might think it's obvious, but there have been professional Egyptologists who have gotten tripped up by this. So the most common animals in ancient Egyptian art that have been confused with dogs are hyenas, African wild dogs, foxes, and of course jackals. Let's go over each of these. So while dogs, jackals, African wild dogs, and foxes are all within the canid family, hyenas are not, but I can understand why people would get them mixed up. One of the ways to distinguish a hyena from any other animal is their size. They are usually depicted much larger. You can see how they're almost an equal size to this man. And the other main thing is their tails. Their tails are much thicker, much bushier, almost go all the way down to the floor, and they obviously always have the pointed ears. When they are painted, which you can see slightly here, they always will have their distinctive stripes. Now, Egyptian artists typically depict hyenas in either hunting scenes like this or in captivity. There are some theories that hyena meat was a delicacy, and this is highly debated. Pretty much there are these two scholars that are just writing articles back and forth arguing whether or not it was a delicacy. But we do know that they domesticated them to a degree during the Old Kingdom. Now, African wild dogs are a very interesting creature. I mean, they're kind of cute in a way, but this is a young little baby one. But one of the distinctive features of the African wild dog is their rounded ears. So let me show you how the Egyptians depicted them. Here are some on either side. The ancient Egyptians rarely depict African wild dogs outside of the pre-dynastic period, which is when this palette was made. And essentially, you only see them during this time period, but the rounded ears and the long tails, sometimes you can see with that little bushier part at the end, are very distinguishing features from normal dogs. This is also a very famous palette called the Two Dog palette, but I would like to run a campaign for it to be renamed the Two African Dog palette because it's very different. Foxes are much more rare in Egyptian art, but you can usually see that they're depicted smaller, with bushier tails, and always the pointed ears. And we usually see them hunting in birds' nests. Finally, jackals. By far the most common animal that seems to be confused with ancient Egyptian dogs, which makes sense because they're very closely related. But jackals in Egyptian art are also completely different from real-life jackals. Let me show you a picture. This is the golden jackal, which is theorized to be one of the jackals that were alive during ancient Egyptian times. And if you can see, there's actually no black fur on him. Did you know that there's actually no jackal that is covered in completely black fur? The reason Anubis and other jackals are usually depicted completely black is because black was the color of regeneration in ancient Egypt, and Anubis was a god of regeneration. Get ready for part 3 for breeds of Egyptian dogs.